What's up, hockey fans? This is Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly. And remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We're going to talk about the Rangers disappointing. What? What are you laughing at? What?
Oh, I could just hear the sorrow in your voice.
It's so funny.
Morning. I hate that you're doing this to me, Jonny, because here's the thing. I like the New York Rangers, but you have become so insufferable about the New York Rangers that seeing you moping around for the last 45 minutes and asking me, can you do the intro to the show? And do I need to
Craig Doremus blowing up my phone right now about Jack Roslovic.
You are like a sad little boy right now. And I got to be honest with you. I'm enjoying it, even though I picked the New York Rangers to win this series. I still believe that they can get it done. But boy, was last night an uninspiring effort by the New York Rangers. And look, there's a lot of questions to be answered after that game. They didn't just lose a hockey game. They borderline didn't show up for a hockey game. The big boys looked out to lunch last night. They looked like they thought they were just going to show up and it was going to be easy. Your blossoming superstar that you posted about yesterday, I don't even know if he got off the bus. He might have just stayed on the bus yesterday underneath the entryway to Madison Square Garden. So let me ask you this question, Jonny, because I have a feeling the Canes fans are going to be wildly entertaining in our YouTube chat this morning. But what is the pulse of Jonny Lazarus and the New York Ranger fan base right now? Because boy, does it seem like the sky is falling.
I mean, listen, the difference in this series has been, or the whole playoffs, like you said, Colby, has been the Rangers' best players stepping up when they need to, and then when they need to make a play. Last night, the Rangers' power play goes 0 for 3. They have a hard time entering the zone with possession. Artemi Panarin, a lazy back check, essentially, on the second goal, which turns into the game-winning goal on Evgeny Kuznetsov. Panarin now -5 in the last 2 games with only 2 shots on goal. Say what you want about him and how well he's performed up to this point, but you can't have your best player being -5 in 2 games with 2 shots on goal. Like, you just can't have that happen.
Let's look.
I want to say one more thing. The biggest thing about last night is that, and I think Valaket said this in the post game, but they wasted a great goaltending performance from Igor Shesterkin, because going into the third period, I was actually in the elevator with Brian Boyle and John Giannone going into the third, and we were like, I don't think Igor's going to let one up. Like, he was playing that good. And, for the Rangers to make one little mistake after the next, and then it turns into a goal. Like, these things, a lot of coaches say it, and I know we have some coaches that listen to our show. Usually when a goal happens, there's like 3 mistakes that lead to it, right? And for the Rangers, that was the case in the third period. Little things that you might not look at specifically and say, oh, that's no big deal. Someone will back that up and be the extra layer. But it was just one mistake after the next that kind of snowballed into 3 goals in a 6.5-minute span. And now we're going back to rally for a game 6.
But all I want to say to you is that the New York Rangers have been a really good team for a while now. This is not a team that has been going in the wrong direction, to speak. And you mentioned coaches that watch and listen to our show. We know our friend Craig Doremus is watching or listening to our show. He's the head coach of the Junior A North American League team, Titans. And he spent a lot of time. He worked for the Rangers back in the day. He knows the organization in and out. But I think he would agree in the fact that usually as a coach, you can see your team trending in a certain direction. And so I don't think there has been horrible trends. Yeah, Panarin hasn't been great, but Lafreniere had sort of stepped up over the last couple of games when Panarin was probably not quite at his best. But look, there were some disturbing things last night, and in an elimination game, to have your top 6 forwards and players, making the crucial errors that they did, make me believe that there could potentially be a maturity issue or an inexperience issue in this matter. And I want to go to the first goal, and I want to start with the first goal because I thought Jack Roslovic was really bad last night. And our friends at Sportsnet posted this replay of the goal, and I want to stop it right there. And that's Jack Roslovic, who just circled over the red line. He had an opportunity to make body contact or play through at the least.
We call that a flyby.
Dmitry Orlov. You don't need to run him over there, but you play through his hands, you stick on puck, and you make it a little difficult on a guy, especially in the middle of a playoff series, to go to the conference finals. And to me, Jack Roslovic looks good with the puck and he plays with speed and pace, but I never feel like he gets anything done. To me, he ends up peripheral. He ends up in the corners. And again, he might look good in spurts because he can skate with the puck, but I thought that he was detrimentally bad the way he held onto the puck last night. I thought he dragged that whole line down with him. And again, possession doesn't always mean a good thing. I've been harsh on Matt Barzal at times, saying that he possesses
similar player.
and it's peripherally.
Yeah.
And Barzal has gotten a lot better at that as his career has gone along, his willingness to play inside the dots. But that's a lot of what Jack Roslovic is. And that's why a guy with his talent has bounced around from first line to fourth line to healthy scratch. It was a problem in Columbus with multiple coaches, and now you're seeing it happen here with the New York Rangers. So, Vic, go ahead and roll this clip, all right? And now stop it again. Stop it again. What is Jack Roslovic now doing? Now, not only did he take a flyby skate, but now he's cheating for offense. Where is your stick? Your one job here is to have your stick to the middle facing the defensive zone, taking away the lane that is ultimately going to lead to the first goal, which was the beginning of a 4-goal onslaught by the Carolina Hurricanes. Go ahead, Jonny.
You're skipping a big detail here, Colby. Look at the top of the screen. Mika Zibanejad is going off to the bench while Orlov has full possession right now on the Rangers side of the red line. Mika's back is to the entire play.
Yeah,
you can't skip over that right now.
I don't love the change by Mika, but if you look at the defensive posture for the Rangers,
and they're
still okay here. Now, do you wish Brendan Schneider takes more ice? Yes, you want Schneider to take more ice here and gap up. But again, Roslovic not only flew by first time, now he's circling and cheating for offense on the second pass by. And go ahead and roll the clip from Sportsnet, Vic. And then we see the pass. Now stop it. Actually, roll it up a little bit more. I will give some credit to never mind. So Schneider gets caught flat-footed here, and you see Keandre Miller in the center of your screen there. He's caught. Do I keep an eye? I believe it's Teravainen. Or do I go help my partner? Because what happens here, if Miller cheats too much and there's a shot and a rebound, well, then Teravainen has a slam dunk. So you can roll it another clip or two, Vic, and then you can pause it again. But I think once you get this low, I'd like to see Keandre Miller try to confront Jordan Staal quicker and then let Wenberg pick up Teravainen. That's where communication, you can pass players off. When you're defending, Keandre Miller can really pass Teravainen off to Wenberg and then try to confront this play where Schneider didn't gap up and then he gets walked around. And it's a heck of a play. They showed a goal from 2009 when Staal was on Pittsburgh in the intermission. John Butchergross did, which was really similar in a series against Detroit. But that kind of shit cannot happen. If you want to win a Stanley Cup, which is what the New York Rangers have looked like they've been able to do for the last probably month or two or more, you can't do that kind of thing. And that's a bad sign for a team that has been as good as they've been, because they look checked out on that play in the third period of a 1-0 game, Jonny.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And both goals, it seemed like there was nothing happening, and then all of a sudden the puck was in the back of the net. Like when you originally froze that frame when Orlov has the puck on the boards, the Rangers have 4 guys back. It's not like it looked like it was a clear-cut scoring chance for the Hurricanes. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Carolina just steps up and make a play. And Vic, I know we have the second goal ready to roll too. We got to show that one also because the Rangers actually have numbers back. They do a solid job at backtracking and getting numbers and making sure that Carolina doesn't have an odd man rush. Again, this video is courtesy of Sportsnet. The Rangers have a good chance coming up. Kakko makes a strong move to the middle and gets a shot on net. But here come the Hurricanes in transition. This is what their game's all about, a 5-on-5, getting pucks and going north. And now, a decent drop pass by Nason. He crashes the net. He takes the defenseman with him. Kakko originally has Kuznetsov, I think, on the back. Was it Kuznetsov originally?
But that's so not Kuznetsov. No,
he had Nason.
Nason is driving the net. And I just talked about passing a player off. Vic, if you could rewind it just a little bit, if we could go back a little, Kakko actually makes a nice play here. He back checks. Watch how he keeps his feet moving. Too. Roll it along a couple of frames. He keeps moving. He picks up Nason, but when I said earlier you can pass a guy off, watch what Kakko does here. He passes Nason off to Miller, and then he shades over to whoever took that shot. I don't remember exactly who took that shot, but I want Brady Shea. Go back a little bit because I want to point out Panarin around the blue line here. Okay, what happens here with Artemi Panarin is he looks over the left shoulder and he stops moving his feet. Jack Parker used to call this wide track Pontiac, okay? You water ski your way into the zone, and Panarin stops moving his feet. He looks the wrong way, and then his countryman, Evgeny Kuznetsov, who's been kind of hot and cold, he took a bad penalty in the first. It didn't hurt his team, but he beats Panarin to the net. And again, this is just not playoff hockey. That's regular season shit. You can't do that in a playoff game. You wouldn't see Nikita Kucherov do that in a playoff game. You wouldn't see Steven Stamkos. You know, that is the difference right there between winning and losing in the playoffs. And I hope guys like Panarin and you know, guys that are top end players from the Rangers recognize that kind of stuff is unacceptable for a team with Stanley Cup aspirations. And I know that we're being really hard on a team that's been really good in the playoffs, but that was a major opportunity that the Rangers squandered last night. And now you've got Carolina going home, feeling confident as all hell. And the more this thing gets to 7, no different than the Bruins, the tighter you're going to start squeezing your stick. And so, you know, the other thing that I thought was interesting last night, Johnny, is just
to clear that up, Colby. Joe Albanese in the chat is saying this is not Kakko's fault, and we're not blaming Kakko.
I think Kakko did a good job.
Kakko was in good position. I don't know if that was unclear or not, but I was
praising Kakko for passing him off Nason and then shading over. If Kakko doesn't pass him off and then shade over, Brady Shea's going to walk down, you know, the tops to the circles, and you know, he's got a hard shot. I think that Kakko did a good job there of hard back check through the middle, pick up a guy, then awareness, pass him off, and then shade over. That's how to be, you know, how to back check a sort of a 3-on-3 textbook by Kakko.
Well, here's the other thing too. Right before the Kuznetsov goal, and Colby, I don't know if you remember this play, but Artemi Panarin had the puck below the goal line in the offensive zone and was being hooked a little bit by Jalen Chatfield. No call. Panarin looked a little frustrated about that. I believe it was on the same shift that this goal actually happens. And the point I'm getting to is that the Rangers power play has not scored a goal since the Vincent Trocheck overtime winner. That's the last power play goal they've had, that double overtime game. So they've gone now 3 games without a power play goal. And in that span, they're 0 for 8. So this power play has gone a little bit stale, and the special teams is what was separating the Rangers in this series. It's no coincidence that when their power play isn't coming through, they're not winning games. That was the one thing in the series, you know, that Carolina had the edge in. It was even strength, 5-on-5. And when you take away the Rangers power play, even though they score a shorthanded goal last night, Jacob Trouba makes a big play in the second period. That's the difference, is Carolina's PK has figured it out. They have limited the Rangers on their power play zone entries, and that is what is changing right now in this series because Carolina couldn't keep them off the board the Rangers had 4 power play goals in the first 2 games of the series. In game 3, they score a shorty and they get a couple good bounces at 5-on-5. But that is the difference right now. Yeah. It's the 5-on-5 play for Carolina.
So here's the other question that I'll have for you. Rempe comes back into the lineup last night. Yeah. He plays 4 minutes in the first period. And then the last 2 periods, he plays a total of 1 minute and 45 seconds. So he plays 6 minutes, a little under 6 minutes total. What is the reason to have him in the lineup? And I know I asked you that,
I said yesterday I wasn't expecting him to play.
I agreed. And it's now they're calling. Tell us what you've seen with Filip Hedel, because you've been at practice and pregame skates, right? So he plays the first game, then they say he has an illness. So we just take them at their word. Other players are dealing with illness right now. Devon Toews didn't play last night because of an illness. I mean, there's definitely bugs going around. So we take the Rangers at their word. Yeah. Okay. Then you're telling me they changed it?
Well, no, Molly tweeted last night. I'm going to try to find her tweet. That she heard from a source that it's soreness. So it's no longer illness, but it's soreness. I'll get her exact tweet up. Molly tweeted before the game. This is at 6:30 p.m. last night, 6:33. Filip Hedel is unavailable to play tonight and is considered day-to-day. He missed Saturday's game with an illness, and now he's dealing with soreness per source. Word is that it is unrelated to previous injury, the suspected concussion. That is per Molly Walker of the New York Post.
And listen, Molly's a very, very reliable source. That's your friend. I know that. And I think we all trust and believe in what she says. I think she has good sources. Look, you haven't played a game in as long as he has to throw into a playoff game and play 12 or 13 minutes and I thought be effective. Maybe he is truly dealing with a little soreness in the hips and the groins and whatever. So I hope the Rangers can get him back, because I still believe that kid can be a difference maker, playing 12 to 13 minutes a night, but being on the second power play unit, being another option when they go 6-on-5. Just, again, not expecting him to star for the Rangers, but just being another good option. So here's my last thing that I want to say to you and really ask you this question, because you came on today, and I know I'm giving you shit.
Rightfully so. You deserve to.
You're really down. And yes, they lost 2 games in a row, but do you not have enough faith in this team? Because I have faith that they're still going to win. I still believe the New York Rangers are going to win, because they've shown me over a large body of time that what their identity is and who they are. And I saw this in the chat earlier, and I don't know who said it because it's far up, but I think it's a really good point. There's 2 days now between games. Okay. It's not the every other, because clearly there was probably some sort of basketball thing going on. So TNT needed TNT and TBS or whatever.
I don't know. I feel like there's sometimes 2 days between but
it's normally it's normally TV. Those are because of TV. The NHL does not want to go till the end of June, which is seemingly where we're headed right now. So, so here's what I would say. I would say, and this was the comment, that this benefits the Rangers, the extra day. First, it gives Hedel a little bit of extra time. It gives guys a little bit more time to reset. I think the Rangers were on their heels in the third period last night, obviously. Gives Shesterkin a little bit of an extra rest. So I do think this benefits the Rangers, but I do think it's going to be challenging to win in Raleigh. Yeah. But I just got to think that they've got 2 more chances to win a hockey game. I still got to think they can do that.
Yeah, I have faith. It's just also I was more upset looking at the prices of flights and hotels to go to Raleigh. That's really kind of what killed my mood, because I just did not want to go back there, and I've decided that I'm actually not going to go back. But I think for me, it just felt like they had Carolina dead, right? Like game 4, 3-3, they come back from down 3-1. Carolina can't score on the power play. Everything going the Rangers' way, and a penalty on Ryan Lindgren changed everything. And last night, Trouba scores that goal. It feels like poetic justice that Jacob Trouba, after being on the ice for 7 straight goals against for Carolina, after taking a whipping from Rangers Twitter, comes up big and makes a play and scores a huge goal. It just felt like everything was going in the right direction. And then literally out of nowhere, it takes a turn. That Jordan Staal goal, like while the Rangers were on their heels a little bit to start the period, it didn't feel like Carolina was going to do anything. It did not. And the building was in shock. And it's really just more, it's more so just like this feeling has happened so many times. You think back to the Eastern Conference Final, Tampa, the Rangers are up 2-0 in the series. They're up 2-0 in Game 3.
I know, but you're giving a fan side of it.
Well,
Remember,
of course,
most of these guys were not there for Tampa. Okay?
Of course. Well, that's not necessarily true. A lot of them were.
Most.
What do you mean most? Essentially, the whole decor.
Are you talking like way back or what?
2 years ago.
What year?
2 years ago.
Okay, 2 years ago. I thought you're going back a lot.
No. This is the conference final 2 years ago.
Okay,
up
so that team was around.
Yeah, up 2-0 in the conference final, up 2-0 in Game 3, and they lose that game. They lose 4 straight games.
But don't we always talk about the fact that you've got to learn to lose before you can win?
I know. But this feels like maybe it's another fucking lesson.
Yeah, but you look at the Bruins. The Bruins got it done. They sunk the 3-1 lead, and then they got it done in overtime. So yeah. I just think you're more panicked than the team is.
Yeah,
I don't believe the organization or the team is feeling
the team should not be in any panic at all.
Panic.
Yeah. I'm not on the fucking team, dude.
Well, you go in the locker room and you sit in guys' stalls.
But I could be, and I grow a playoff beard. But I could be in panic. Like, it's okay, I think, for Ranger fans to not feel comfortable right now and feel concerned going back to Raleigh. I think that's a normal feeling to have, especially after it felt like this thing was going to be done with a 1-0 lead going into the third and Igor playing the way he was playing. Am I confident they can get it done? Yes. Here's the thing. And I actually, my story from the game last night is dropping in about 9 minutes. And this was the theme of it. Hockey is wildly random and unpredictable. That's what my friend Emily Kaplan said that last night. We were talking about it. And I think a lot of people going into this series would have predicted it to go 6 or 7 games, but I don't think anyone would have predicted it to go this way. And that's the beauty of the sport, right?
But do you think the New York Rangers are going to lose 4 games in a row?
I don't.
Okay. So
I really don't, but I'm scared that they might. I'm scared that they might, and I'll never be able to do a show again or log on Twitter again.
Keep reminding yourself of that. I hope you just didn't jinx your boy by calling him, saying he's blossoming into an elite playoff performer because he played 2 good games. I hope you didn't jinx him because you always talk about how your main job is to build his brand. And I hope you didn't ruin his brand. I really hope you didn't hurt his brand.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the other game last night.
And by the way, to the comment in the chat about that the NHL always goes into June, I said late June. I'm aware the NHL goes into June. I have a Stanley Cup ring over my shoulder, and we won that on June 15th. So I'm very well aware of the dates of when the Stanley Cup playoffs go to. But right now, there are games that could potentially be played June 23rd and June 24th, which is about a week or 2 later than I believe the NHL would like to play hockey games into the summer. So make sure you get the earwax out of your ears if you're going to try to chirp me on my own show. So let's talk Dallas, Colorado, Johnny, because there was a couple of bombshells that went off before this game. And I'll tell you what, the Colorado Avalanche looked like it. They looked like a team like that. The guy who I got on FaceTime with on our pre-show meeting this morning at 8:15 is how the Colorado Avalanche played last night. And we'll start with the fact that Devon Toews was out due to illness, and they found that out pretty close to game time. He must have woken up and felt pretty shitty. But
didn't he take a pretty hard hit too? Do you think the illness thing has to do with the concussion thing? Possibly.
I honestly, I don't speculate. If they say a guy's ill, then I take them. If they say a guy's day to day with an upper body injury, well, that's what we have to do, right? I have no idea.
Jamie Benn hit was on Toews, wasn't it?
I have no idea if they're related. Toews was able to play out the game, so you don't know. But the big news and the news that caught everyone by storm, and we have to give Adrian Dater credit because he was far and above the first person to sniff this out. And it was the news of Val Nichushkin. And, this is a guy who any hockey fan knows that he struggles. He disappeared on his team in the playoffs last year, with drug and or alcohol related, an incident. That was his second time going into the player assistance program last year. Look, you don't want to make light of a guy who clearly has an addiction problem. But it seems like he, the pressure must have got to him and he fell off the wagon again, unfortunately. And, he failed a drug test or alcohol test or any and all of the above. We really don't know the details. And he went back into the player assistance program, stage 3 of it, which we're going to actually put up on the screen for everybody right now. And I'm going to read a little of this out just so people get an idea of what these different stages are like and what they could mean for those of you who are audio only. But this is what it says. Under the program, a player seeking first-time help will receive confidential counseling and treatment. Here is the outline for discipline for drug and alcohol treatment policy. Stage 1, first inpatient treatment, no penalty. So that's what he did 2 years ago. Stage 2, for violation of stage 1 treatment plan, suspension without play during active phase of treatment, and then eligible for reinstatement. Okay, that I think is what he went into last year during the playoffs. And then stage 3, for violation of stage 2 treatment plan, suspension without pay for at least 6 months, then eligible for reinstatement. So that is where he is right now, Val Nichushkin. He's in stage 3. He violated his stage 2 treatment plan, which I assume, and again, I don't know for sure, is you cannot drink or do drugs. That would be my assumption. I think it's a fair assumption. And that obviously, he was not able to adhere to that. And, at the bottom of this list, it talks about stage 4, which is not where he's at, but it says players may also be subject to program supervision for substance abuse related involvement within the criminal justice system. For example, players arrested for substance abuse related offenses may be placed in stage 1. So we've risen to stage 3. This is the second time during playoffs that Nichushkin has had this issue. He was leading the team with goals. He was scoring all sorts of big goals. He was really dragging his team into games on nights where some of the big guys like Rantanen, who's been kind of hot and cold in the playoffs this year, he was
leading the whole playoffs with 9.
Wasn't producing at that clip. Now he's gone. Now he's done. He will not play again for 6 months. So, you got to hope he gets better. First and foremost, this is, it's disappointing to his team, but you just got to wish that whatever demons that he's dealing with, he can figure out. And look, I'm not someone with an addictive personality. I've had my fun. It's always kind of hard for me to sympathize with these situations because because of my own personal experience, but I've seen it in my own family. Members of my direct family, my extended family have dealt with these things. My cousin Molly Bloom, she it's well documented what she went through with her whole poker thing and having to go to rehab and deal with that kind of stuff. So like I said, I've seen it up close and personal. It's a shame, but the Colorado Avalanche have to move on. I mean, and like last night, they played like a team that, somebody just peed in their Cheerios. And I know you didn't get a chance to watch a lot of that game, Johnny, because I know
Cheerios?
Yeah. And it's it was a poor effort. At one point, shots were, 13 or 14-3, or maybe 18-3. I saw that picture going around the internet, so people clearly were aware of it. But the Dallas Stars look like the train that keeps chugging along. And, I still go back to that first round, and I just have to rib you about this a little bit when I told you no panic for the Dallas Stars down 2-0. And they continue to show us why. I mean, this is a complete hockey team that's getting goaltending, defense, scoring, shot blocking, you name it. The Dallas Stars look like a force, and I'm feeling good about picking them to get to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple thoughts because you had a lot to say there. First on Nichushkin, just one thing that stood out to me when this originally came out too, and we'll have Frank Seravalli joining the show probably any second now. But usually the verbiage on these things is a player has entered the NHL's player assistance program. This was Nichushkin had been placed in it. This is the league stepping in and saying this guy has to go to the player assistance program.
When you read what those stages are, you
but
violate a treatment plan.
For sure.
And
I'm saying just for,
right.
it's not like he failed a drug test like on his own and was seeking help. I think that could be maybe a little bit lost in translation sometimes, but also, just in reading comments after the game last night, this was a quote that was tweeted out by Corey Masizik. And this was what Jack Johnson had to say after the game on Val Nichushkin. This was the quote. He made his decisions. That's all I'm going to say on that. He made his decisions. And Nichushkin's nameplate has already been replaced in the Avs locker room. So to Colby's point, they have to move on. They are moving on. His nameplate's already gone. But now they look at this series and they're down 3-1. And this is a team that hasn't even had a lead in this series yet. They won game 1. But they came back and won in overtime. They have not led at all in this series, which is pretty alarming for the Colorado Avalanche, a team that, like you said, I've been super high on all year. And, I'm shocked in how they came out last night and played. Granted, I only watched like really the end of the second and third period because I was finishing up my work at the Ranger game. But, man, like to come out and come out flat like that, like a team as good as Colorado that plays with the pace of Colorado, I just don't understand how that happens. And
let me, I want to address a couple of things in the chat. First of all, we have a couple people in our chat that are talking about their own battles. And I just want to say, like, to those of you that have dealt with this and have come out the other side, obviously, like, that's very commendable. It's great for you. And like I said, I've seen it in my family. Most people have seen it either with a friend or a family member. There's another chat. Dom H said, it seems like a dumb policy. It seems controlling to say someone can't consume drugs or alcohol. It should be if it's affecting team or play. So that's a fair point, Dom. But what you're failing to realize here is that it was affecting the team, and there is no policy about drinking or smoking weed in the NHL. You can do that kind of stuff, and a lot of players even do cocaine and other party drugs, and guys get drug tested, and that stuff isn't flagged for penalties or suspension. It's when it becomes a problem. And last year during the playoffs, remember, Val Nichushkin had a major incident that was tied to potentially drugs and alcohol last year in the playoffs with a female in his room and missing a bus or a meeting or whatever. So that is why Nichushkin is where he's at. Once you enter the player assistance program, then the rules are different for you, because once you go on a treatment plan, okay, you have to follow and abide by that treatment plan. So just to answer your statement, Dom, nobody controls that kind of stuff until you have an issue that is affecting yourself and the team, and you go for help. The first time, you are the one who has to go for help. There might be some sort of intervention, but you've got to be okay and sign off on it. So that your comment is a little bit off base based on everything that we've talked about and the way that the policy actually works. So, we're going to bring Frank Seravalli in now. It's kind of perfect timing because Frank is a guy who has been on the Dallas Stars all year, and we don't want to necessarily get bogged down in the Nichushkin thing. I think we've laid it all out, Frank. We went through the different stages of it. I don't know if there's anything you want to comment on about it, but I'm kind of more interested in really hearing about what you have to say about the Dallas Stars, because you have literally been on these guys since the preseason. You looked at the roster, you looked at the staff, and you haven't wavered from that anytime I've asked you for the last, 7 months it's been.
And I can't declare victory yet. I mean, we're still a pretty long way away. The Stars are 7 out of the 16 wins on the way there. So I think the New York Rangers, the Florida Panthers, potentially still the Colorado Avalanche will have something to say about where it ends up. But I've also, true confession, have been the worst at picking Stanley Cup winners, both preseason and at the start of the playoffs. I don't know in my 15 years covering this league whether I've gotten it right once yet. It's so ridiculously hard to do, but this would be a first.
Well, Frank, I got to ask you too, going through what they went through in the first round, Colby, you could probably speak to this a little bit also. Do you think that 7-game series, and I know they could have a chance to close this thing out early in 5 games, but do you think that catches up to a team like Dallas a little bit later in the playoffs? Like, I know they look good and they're playing well and they're pretty complete, but sometimes those first round effects catch up to you in the long run of a Stanley Cup run. Do you see that happening with a group like this that has this much experience?
I don't think so. I mean, look at what they've been through. They overcome the 2-0 deficit, losing both games on home ice. The next test is blowing a lead once and then teetering on the edge of going off the rails again against the Avs. That doesn't seem to faze them. It's probably not. I mean, and look, again, I don't think anyone's taking whoever comes out of the East lightly, and I'm not also declaring that they're going to stomp or steamroll the Pacific side of the division. I don't know that it's going to get any harder than that. Mm-hmm. It's entirely possible that the 2 series that the Stars have played might be the toughest tests that they have in this entire postseason. So, look, to beat the best, to be the best, you have to beat the best is the saying. And I truly believe that's the case. And I think a lot of people went into this playoff thinking that the Avs are the top team in the league to beat in the playoffs, regardless of whatever the standings said heading into it. And so the way that they've handled business, the different emotional swings, I mean, those are all really, I don't view that as oh man, this team might be exhausted. I view that as this team is, they're packing away some significant experience and learning lessons that they can carry with them the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been a really fun team to watch, that's for sure. And Wyatt Johnston, I mean, what can you say about this kid? He's on fire. That second goal he had last night from that Draisaitl spot, sneaking that under the bar, that was
Wyatt Draisaitl?
Nasty, essentially. That was nasty. But Colby, you watched more of that. What Frank's comment?
No, I'm just laughing at you.
At me?
Yeah.
Why? What I say?
Do you have your Rangers playoff beard going? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a perfect segue, actually, Johnny. Why don't you take us into Proraso and let's get into Vancouver, Edmonton, and look at tonight's games, because we got boots on the ground with Frank, and I think it's a good time to get into our preview.
All right, so let's get into our Proraso playoff preview, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code HOCKEY15. That's 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code, in all caps, HOCKEY15. Frank, are the Vancouver Canucks being disrespected? Let me go into that further. They were one of the best teams in the West all year, and we actually haven't talked about them as much as we probably should have on this show, because
that's because the games start after 10 o'clock and you're sleeping.
I'm not watching it. Okay. I don't sleep, Frank. You know that. Come on.
So I don't think they're being disrespected. I would say that they have won a big chunk of their games in circus-like fashion so far these playoffs. Like, there have been some massive comebacks. There have been some games that they have had no business winning. And I think some people look at the success that they've had this playoff so far with the potential to, put Edmonton on the ropes tonight and go up with a 3-1 series lead as, I think it's unfair to frame it as a house of cards, but I think people are looking at it saying, I'm not exactly sure how they're getting this done. And so on the one hand, I think they have forced you to reckon with them and respect them, because they do have this, I think, really powerful belief that even when they're down, they're still going to be in the mix. And that team just works. They scrap, they claw for every single thing that they get. They don't make anything easy. And I think that part is really impressive. I just think when you look at this playoff and how it's unfolded, they need more. Mm-hmm. They need more from their depth scoring. They need fewer Ian Cole turnovers. They just need to be cleaner and better. And I just wonder what their ceiling is. Like, how can they consistently do that? And how are they possibly going to do that so long as Elias Pettersson remains on a milk carton? I mean, he honestly is so disengaged. He doesn't look like he's part of the game. And I don't I don't see a fix for that. And I also think it's a really scary proposition for the Canucks moving forward, that this is the guy you're going to be paying $11.5 million for the next 8 years, starting on July 1st, that he ain't even here.
I know if that was the end of your thought.
No, I mean, listen, it's not pretty. And, now Vancouver is going to be without Carson Soucy. He gets the 1-game suspension. He's a guy who averages between 17 and 18 minutes a night. Kind of depends on which night you look at.
And more than that, he's also, him and Tyler Myers have really played the bulk of the series so far against Connor McDavid.
They've been the shutdown there.
Yeah, I think that's going to really pose some significant issues for the Canucks tonight in Game 4.
Well, let me ask you, Frank, is it Friedman that comes into the lineup for him? Do you have any inclination
it's
of
Noah,
what we'll see?
Noah Juulsen.
Okay, so Noah Juulsen will come in. What about Thatcher Demko? Where are we at with Thatcher Demko? Is this a situation now where they're potentially just giving him more time because of the way Shelovs is playing? And admittedly, I posted something on Twitter recently, and I said, the pumpkin has turned into a carriage. I think it's time to go back to DeSmith. And Shelovs has proven me wrong over the last couple of games, although I don't think he's been the reason that they're winning, but he's giving them a chance to win.
Not according to Draisaitl, it's the posts.
Yeah, and I thought that was an unfair look. In the playoffs, you can say whatever you want, but Draisaitl also had another rush where, Shelovs stopped him clean. Like, there was no question about it. And look, guess what? You can make the joke about posts or whatever you want, but when your goalie at the other end lets in 4 on 15, you can't say anything. So that's a big reason why the Oilers are in the spot that they're in. You could make the argument on the flip side that had the Oilers even gotten, I'm not even saying average goaltending, I'm saying D-level goaltending, that they're leading this series 3-0. They don't blow the 3-goal lead in Game 1. They win Game 2 on their own merit, and probably with the chances that they had in Game 3, they probably win Game 3.
I mean, that Corey Perry goal line chance, the Derek Ryan chance.
They hit the post 4 times themselves. They had plenty of good looks. But I think that's a foolish way to look at this, because that's not real life. No. It's not like ifs and buts.
If things were different, they'd be different.
So yeah, 100%. So wait, you had asked me a question though about
Thatcher Demko and Shelovs.
Yeah, so Demko, the big question is, has he started to take shots? And I think, I'm curious to get over to the rink today and see whether he's out there and taking shots. Because that was the big next step. He has been on the ice for a while now, more than a week. And they wanted to see in that week time, would he get cleared to begin dropping to his knees with that hurt knee and taking shots. And if that's the case, then he can begin to ramp up towards potentially playing later in the series. I still think Game 5 is a big stretch. I don't even think, with the way Shelovs has played and the lead that they've earned themselves, there's no reason to. And that's maybe the most tantalizing part about this for the Canucks, is that as good as Shelovs has been, the more games you win, the more space you create for yourself. You have an opportunity to potentially, have Demko come in and add to your team. And that's a really exciting, probably enthralling possibility.
Yeah. Well, it's never a good thing when we're this far into the playoffs and we are talking so much about goaltending, because it means teams are not getting what they need. What is Knobloch going to do in Edmonton? Are you expecting Stuart Skinner out there? Are you expecting a Calvin Pickard? Pickard. I know that's the pronunciation now. Early in his career was Pickard. Now it's Pickard. But what's the expectation for Edmonton? And again, I know these are things
so wait, was he like French and then not French? What happened there?
Well, no, he's from Manitoba, and I was in training camp. I was in training camp with him years and years ago, and he was Calvin Pickard.
He's he's the brother-in-law of my good friend. I could ask him what the pronunciation is.
And now it's Pickard. So I maybe we were wrong all those years back then, and he never corrected us. But are you expecting to see him play, or you got to kind of go back to Skinner, right?
I am expecting Cal Pickard to start. I haven't gotten it confirmed just yet. So I've been working on that. But I just think they need to change it up. I think the history suggests that the Oilers got into a spot last year with Jay Woodcroft where they didn't trust Jack Campbell, and they continued to go after Stu Skinner in the playoffs. They were like, oh, he'll find a way to break out of it. We're going to keep running with him. And every time they went back to him in the playoffs, how many games? I think he had at least 4 games where he was pulled. And then the next time they went back to him every single time. And he just never shook out of it. And I think because of that and because of the numbers, like he has a .793 save percentage this season. For his playoff career, he's now played 20 games. There are 69 goalies, in the salary cap era, 69 that have played 15 or more since 2005, 15 games. Do you know where Stuart Skinner ranks among those 69 goalies?
Where?
Dead last, 69th in save percentage. And so when you get to that point and the history, 20 games played, that's enough to me to suggest that you've got to do something a little bit different, and you can't have another playoff run where Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are absolutely ridiculous again. Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like those guys have been so good. It's the opposite problem of every other team. You know, when the Toronto Maple Leafs lose, it's because their star players drop the ball. The Oilers have the exact opposite problem.
Yeah.
McDavid and Draisaitl are close to 2 points a game in the playoffs, some of the best playoff performers we've ever seen, and they get zero depth scoring again. Their goalie has his wheels fall off and has gotten his wheels beaten off this series by Artur Silovs. And their power play, which is like the Harlem Globetrotters, they were 4 for 6 for the series heading into the third period the other night. 4 for 6.
Yeah,
and they've only had 8 opportunities through 9 or 10 periods of hockey, including overtime. Mm-hmm. A team that takes 4 penalties a game has only taken 8 through 9 periods.
Frank, I actually want to transition a little bit. And I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Anna Quenneville, Joel Quenneville's daughter, has been tweeting a little bit lately just about her father and how he's been treated by the NHL as far as, when he can get reinstated and whatnot. And she actually tweeted last night, which I found interesting. And I don't know if a lot of people saw this, but she had a thread going where she posted screenshots of the report, and she's been commenting on that. But this was the latest tweet that she had. So this is the quote. It
was from the 11th, right?
Well, yes, and then she tweeted last night on the 13th, saying.
But she also deleted some of the first tweets.
Oh, she did?
The thread. Yeah.
Well, I think the original guy who posted it deleted his original comment.
Okay.
But she said this last night, and I want to know if you've heard anything. But this is what she said: "For those asking, Kyle called my dad after he went on the Andy Strickland podcast and gave him his blessings to coach again. Kyle is in Kyle Beach. Have you heard anything in regard to that? Because I thought that was an interesting comment that she, tweeted last night, that Kyle Beach himself, spoke to Joel and said, hey,
Well, and I just think it's ridiculous that Quenneville's basically been given a lifetime sentence without any, give the guy a sentence.
There's been no sentence at all. That's Colby.
That's what I'm
the
saying.
Exact point that I've made is,
which is just insane.
Yeah, I think it's not proper, to be honest. That's not how any, I don't even want to call it judicial system because that's not what the NHL is, but that's not how any due process would work. And it's great that, and I haven't confirmed that, but whether or not Anna Quenneville is correct in saying that Kyle Beach has given his blessing, unfortunately, that's absolutely meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
It's whether Gary Bettman has given his blessing or not, and really, I think unfortunately for Joel Quenneville and Stan Bowman, they are caught up in the optics of everything else that's going on around them. It's their case, and this Kyle Beach situation, and now it's the additional lawsuit that has been filed by whoever the next John Doe is. It is the Hockey Canada 2018 World Junior Team. Things that may or may not even be related, that are vaguely in the hockey sexual assault realm. It all comes back to the league, and they say, well, we're not going to reinstate these guys and look like we're soft on, whatever crime that you think that Joel Quenneville or Stan Bowman has committed, even though it's not a crime. And even though they've admitted that they, had an error in omission, could have done more and have since put in the time and work. They're just caught up in a storm. That's right. How I view it. That's my personal opinion. And until the league decides to do something, they do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reality is I completely agree with you, and I believe that they need to put a time clock on this, and they need to be clear, and they need to say, Stan and Joel, you can be reinstated in 24 months, whatever it may be. Just like with a player, just like with the court of law, just like in any other situation, you get your due process, you have a hearing, you have an appeal opportunity, you're given a sentence or a punishment, you go, whether we're talking about the court of law, and you go to prison and you do your time, and then you come out rehabilitated, whatever it may be.
Even the worst criminals, the 100%. Murderers, everyone else, they all get a sentence.
Yeah.
So you're going away for life. And if the penalty in this case is a lifetime ban from the NHL, then I think they at least they deserve to know it. That's the only point. And that would be ridiculous. Like, I want to be totally clear, because you're now at some point punishing the people that were there longer and more so than the people that actually did the abusing.
Yeah.
But that's a whole separate thing. The point is, they need a sentence, and they need to know. And that's the other thing about people that do go to jail, or that are criminals. They come out of prison or jail, and then they have a right and an ability to earn a living again.
Yeah. No,
these guys have been blocked and prevented from earning a living.
We talked about this yesterday, and I'm with you. And nobody's excusing what happened. And those guys have been the first ones to admit their fault in the situation. But the way this is being handled, I agree. It's all about the court of public opinion. And I really appreciated what Eric Lang tweeted.
Yeah.
The head coach at AIC. And Vic, I don't know if you could look up Eric Lang's Twitter. I should have sent you this already. He's a head coach of a Division I program, and what he did. So while you guys are looking for that, let me ask you a question, Frank, that's more on the coaching front. Is Joel Quenneville the domino that some teams are waiting for before they make other options? Because it does seem like there's this weird log jam where nothing's happening.
No, I think what you've seen is paralysis by analysis. I think you've seen teams interview I'll just use the New Jersey Devils, for example. They have interviewed a ton of people, and then when it looked like they were getting to the finish line, it looked like, hey, is it Craig Berube? Is it Todd McClellan? Is it Jay Woodcroft? I think all three of those guys got, they were like, hey, we're kind of reaching the end of the process here. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're bringing in Sheldon Keefe. And so they were kind of, I think, not speaking for them, they feel like, hey, this has been a really long process, and when is New Jersey going to pull the trigger? And then you throw in the Toronto Maple Leafs, who make their decision way later because they played in the first round. They jump right to it. they fire Sheldon Keefe on Thursday. They have their press conference on Friday. Craig Berube's interviewing in Toronto on Saturday and Sunday. Todd McClellan's in there Monday. So there's going to be internal and external pressures here to try and, make something happen. We're still waiting on answers from, hey, what are the LA Kings doing? Is Jim Hiller coming back? Is the interim tag going to be removed, or are they going external? The Winnipeg Jets are continuing their process. In fact, I still need to confirm this, but I think the plan is that Craig Berube is actually going into Winnipeg today. So there is a whole lot going on. Seattle is doing their thing. Are they waiting for Dan Bilesma to finish his season with their AHL team where they've made it to the third round of the Calder Cup playoffs? There's a whole lot of the Sharks have a whole separate list of candidates that are, kind of in a different realm in terms of experience and success at the NHL level. And so everyone's kind of sitting back. It's not a wait for Joel Quenneville thing at all. It's who's going to be the first domino to fall, and then how does that impact the rest of the board?
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. My last question for you, Frank, and then I'll see if Jonny has anything else for you before we let you go. And I'm going to actually go backwards a little bit to what we were talking about. And this is actually coming from our chat. And it's a good question, and it might be too early to know. What happens with a player like Val Nichushkin's contract, because he's got quite a few years left on it? This is now he's in stage 3 now, so you're basically 3 strikes into this program, and leaving your team twice now during the playoffs. How does that work with his contract? Is that something that could be terminated, or does it have to be bought out? I mean, do you know what the pathway is in a situation like that?
It's actually really unclear because no one has ever been in this spot before where they have a long-term expensive contract like this and they've made it to stage 3. Like, there have been plenty of players that have made it to stage 3 that, hey, this guy's on a 1-year deal, this guy's on a 2-year something, and it's small money and no one really ever thought about it. Some of this happened pre-cap era. And it's like, hey, this, it's not as front and center as it is now. They do not have the ability as it stands right now to terminate his contract. I think that window opens up after the 6-month suspension, when he's eligible for reinstatement. And from what I know, and it's, certainly not to be taken at gospel, but you can read the reaction from Cale Makar. You can see the reaction from Jared Bednar and others around the Avs. I think they feel like this was a clear violation of trust. And look, there's all sorts of things that go into addiction, and I know you guys had gotten into that a little bit, but when you have a second straight critical juncture, and this is when the season matters most, and you basically flunk out, you don't pass the test. And I don't mean literally just drug test. I mean test in terms of commitment to your team and teammates. And you are the playoff leader in goals to this point. That's a real breach of trust. And I think those players feel like he let them down. And I think that team feels like, hey, I don't know if we can trust this guy again.
Right.
And that's fair because, when it does start with party drugs, and I'm really comfortable in saying that, look, am I doubting for 1 second that addiction can take over? Without question. But when it starts with that and you continue with that, there's a lot of people in pro sports that just don't have time for you. And I think that's also fair to say.
And just to provide some clarity to people in the chat, I see a lot of people talking about, will he be, his pay and this and that. Yeah. Just let me remind everybody something. NHL players are not paid their salary during the playoffs. Your last paycheck comes. Go ahead, Frank.
But I can stop you for a second. Even when the paychecks start coming again, he's not going to be paid.
Right. Well, that's where I was going with this. Is right now this whole he's not being paid thing. that probably doesn't start till the beginning of next season because players are not receiving April 15th.
It starts the day before the regular season starts. That's your first payday of the year.
And so I would assume, is that when his 6 months, his clock will start, Frank?
That's when it starts?
Well, I don't know. I just
his suspension starts now. His clock will be up. His suspension will be up in October. At least October 13th is what the math would be.
Which is literally like the day NHL paychecks start again.
Yeah.
That also doesn't mean he has to be reinstated. It says he's eligible for reinstatement.
Right.
But that doesn't mean he has to be reinstated. And if the Avs present a case that they don't want him to be reinstated, the NHLPA is going to have something to say about that, of course, because they're the union and they protect players' rights and contracts. But this is with this amount of term and money, this is a mostly unprecedented situation.
Yeah. And look, the whole thing about him not getting paid, though, just to be clear, nobody is paid right now. You get some playoff bonus money. But if you don't make it very far, it's very little money. And even if you win, it's still not that much money compared to what these guys are used to. So, Frank, we're going to let you go. I know you got business to take care of. Go ahead, Jonny. You want to ask one more thing?
I want to finish on more of a fun note. I want to ask one question. Frank, if you had to pick right now, I know it's early, who's your Conn Smythe winner?
I haven't spent 1 second thinking about that.
I don't think it's early to tell, but it's always a fun conversation to see what name is.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm usually a Conn Smythe voter, and I start to at the end of this round, and I guess in some ways for some teams we're getting close to that.
Yeah.
I would say that each team you're starting to see the candidates sort of develop, if that makes any sense. I would say like Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov are going to have a real good case from the Panthers. Am I outrageous in saying that Zibanejad for me is pretty close to the top for the Rangers?
My pick would be Trocheck right now, I think, if I'm picking a Ranger.
Okay. But
not Lafreniere.
What are the odds that that's well, those are not MVPs. Those are Johnny Heartthrobs.
There should be a trophy for that you could vote on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, sure. We can put it right next. We'll just do Johnny's playoff beard clippings. That'll be the trophy.
Well, look, Frank, it's good getting you on. We know you're out on the West Coast right now. You're going back and forth between Vancouver and Edmonton, so your boots on the ground. I'm sure you're doing a million radio hits today out in Western Canada. Make sure you say hi to Bob Stauffer for us. It was good seeing your face this morning. Thanks for getting up early, and enjoy the game tonight. And hopefully I'll see you back here soon. And hopefully soon enough, we'll be down the shore drinking a couple of high noons, sitting around the pool.
Can't wait. See you guys.
All right.
Thanks,
see you, Frank.
How's it going?
So before we got to jump into that Boston and Florida game and preview that quick, and kind of talk about what we think is going to happen there. And I think a big question in that game is now, are you going to Linus Ullmark? We keep saying it, we keep wondering it. Is now the time where we're finally going to see Ullmark? Marchand, is he going to be back in the lineup? I mean, what changes is Jim Montgomery going to make for the Boston Bruins in this elimination game that they're facing?
I mean, I feel like I've been wrong about all of these, and I'm saying, why would you go to Ullmark now? Like, stick with Swayman. It's not nothing in this series has been on Swayman.
Yeah.
You know, I think everyone would agree with that. I think you stick with him. Plus, if you take him out now, it's I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a slap in the face that they've leaned on him so much, and it'd be like them quitting on him, even though it's not his fault. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
it might be a situation where you just got to change
up the mojo.
I mean, you're looking for a change because nothing is working. You're being outplayed. You're being outbattled. I mean, look, I think the Bruins lose this game tonight. I think they've come a little bit unglued, in my opinion. Don Sweeney is talking to the media about officials having to, confront the media, which I do agree with. I do think there should be transparency in some of these calls. I'd love to hear directly from maybe it's supervisors, people in the war room that are really ultimately making these calls. I think that type of transparency would go a long way. People may not like what they have to hear, but at least they're hearing it directly from the source and not from a written situation. So for that reason, we're going to go to our Betway bet of the day, and it's going to be just what I said. But Betway is still offering reimbursement of $200, really a free bet of up to $200 on your first bet. Use the QR code that we have directly on our screen right now. Create the new account. Get involved on Betway. Throw a couple of bets in. Maybe it's a big parlay on the night. Maybe you sprinkle it across a couple of different teams and a couple of different sports. Whatever that you like to do. But make sure you join the action with Betway. Take advantage of the great free $200 promotion. It's only available outside of Ontario. Please play responsibly, which will bring us to our Betway bet of the day. And what I have to say with this would be the Florida Panthers on the money line. I know it's minus 135, so it's not the greatest odds, the greatest money for you, but I just think Florida's too good. I think they've gone to another level. I don't think they want this series to drag out. The more it drags out, the more likely you are to see Marchand come back into the series. We know he can be a difference maker. There's question marks right now with the Bruins, and are they focused on the wrong things? I think Jim Montgomery has sort of become a little bit emotionally unraveled in this series, and I think we've seen his team sort of play based on the emotions that he's had on the bench. So I think the Florida Panthers get it done tonight. I really do. And so we're going to take the Panthers on the money line, minus 135. Hopefully we win. Last night we said Makar anytime goal scorer. We did not hit on that one. We were on a little bit of a hot streak, so hopefully we can reheat up and get going again. Jonny, anything in that series that has stuck out, you think is going to be an X factor type of situation in this game this evening?
Well, I think, there's a lot of attention right now on Pat Maroon and Sam Bennett. I think Pat Maroon came out the other day and said, people are looking at me to do something. It's not like I'm not trying. If you want to say I'm not doing my job, you could say it, but we got to win a fucking hockey game, and I think maybe the media attention around that series now has become focused on the response to Sam Bennett, when really Florida's just trying to win, and I think Boston, they can't let that be a distraction. I know Bennett is the guy who scores that big goal in game 4. He's gonna be a rat again tonight, probably in game 5. But if you're the Boston Bruins,
does he really play like a rat?
I
think that's
he's not a ratty player.
Like Nick Cousins plays like a rat.
Yeah,
do you believe Bennett really plays like a rat? I don't. No,
he just plays like a
accurate.
He's just like a fucking mutant out there, But it's not. I wouldn't say Sam Bennett is a dirty player. Like I don't look at Sam Bennett as that kind of player, and maybe I'm wrong in saying that. I don't think he acts. I don't think he overreacts. He kind of just brings it a little bit extra, and I think that's what every team would want in a player. And he can also score goals. He does a little bit of everything. He was great in Calgary in their playoff runs too, but it didn't seem like he had as much around him when he was in Calgary in the playoffs.
Yeah. And the other thing about Bennett, that you got to remember, this is a guy who came back from a hand injury. So most likely he broke something in his hand. I heard a rumor from somebody, and again, it's from a former player who played for them, who no longer plays for the Panthers, but told me that he had heard that Bennett potentially had to have a couple of screws put in his wrist to stabilize the injury that he sustained. And if you remember, he got hit kind of right here with that shot. And so if he did have a break or some sort of little operation, his hand is probably taped up. And when your hand is taped up, you're not allowed to fight. You cannot fight with a hand wrapping just to make sure that you don't have foil on your hand under tape or something along those lines. I know people don't do that anymore, but there's no way with the injury that Bennett had, he's going to drop his gloves. There's just no way. And, the other thing on Bennett, and I saw this on social media yesterday, Emily Kaplan reported that the NHL claimed that they did not see the reverse angle of that play until Sunday night. That is the biggest and fattest lie the NHL has ever told. And man, they've told a lot of lies. And I tweeted that out with like a picture of Pinocchio. And
I saw that.
People were like, well, why would the NHL say that? I will remind you, I have worked on the inside of NHL teams before. They lie. If you think everything that they tell you and they report and the messages that get out that they leak on purpose are truthful, don't be so naive, okay? Because I've literally sat in meetings with the PR team and we've been told, okay, here's how we're going to spin this on the broadcast tonight. Here's how we're going to spin this in your social media feeds tonight. So it's all bullshit. So don't believe everything that they say. And when they say they didn't see that, a league that reviews everything, they're lying to you. There's no way they did not see that until Sunday night. They didn't think it deemed a suspension, and that's that. And now they're looking to cover their own ass because everybody's losing their shit about it. But to say they didn't see it is a big fat lie.
Do you think what Soucy did warranted more than what Bennett did?
No, I thought 1 game suspension was reasonable for Soucy. He cross-checked David right in the face.
But I think people are acting as if Bennett did something that bad, like that.
No, I completely disagree. That's a hockey play with Bennett. It's collision that Marchand went looking for. Mm-hmm. And I still believe that there was a brace factor to that play. Did he probably give it a little bit extra? Yeah, it's playoffs. It is. You hate the outcome. But I didn't have a problem with it. I thought Soucy's was a direct cross-check after a play. Yeah. That's not a hockey play. They're very different. I had no issue with the suspension for Soucy. I'm glad they didn't throw the book at him and give him 4 games because it was McDavid. But they gave him a game, and it's going to hurt their team because, like Frank said, they've been playing a lot of minutes against the McDavid line. So, or Draisaitl, one or the other, right? Mm-hmm. And killing penalties and this and that. So, I didn't have any issues with it, but we'll see. I think that it's going to be a physical game tonight. I think the Bruins obviously.
I was going to say, does it get more physical if Florida runs away with, like, if Florida gets a 2-3-0 lead? Do you think Boston just kind of goes haywire and it turns into a shit show?
I mean, maybe, but again, like, you've got to have willing combatants in that situation. And if Florida's up 3 or 4-1, and you're closing out the series, why would you engage in that type of shit?
I meant Boston.
I'm saying engage with Boston. That's going to start trying to bait you into that kind of thing. And look, the Bruins have Pat Maroon, but after that, I mean, look at their lineup. Yeah, Charlie McAvoy is tough as fucking nails.
Frederick's tough. Carlos tough.
Yeah, okay, sure. Well, Carlo's a good, strong defenseman, but I wouldn't put him in the tough guy category. Carlo's not running around looking for trouble during a game.
No, but he would fucking fight.
Well, listen, most players in the NHL will drop their gloves if they have to. So, but Carlo's not a guy who's looking for it. They're not this Bruins team is not built to be a bunch of enforcers. There's no Milan Lucic. There's no Zdeno Chara. There's no Dennis Seidenberg. You're not
Colby
talking
Cohen.
about Thornton. Greg Campbell was tough as freaking nails. Nathan Horton played the game on the edge. So this is a very different looking Bruins team. And look, the Bruins, everybody was worried about their offense. Well, now you see it. Pavel Zacha has been invisible. DeBrusk has quieted down. I mean, the Bruins have a bunch of really good, solid third-line players playing in the top of their lineup. Like Zacha is not taking you to the Stanley Cup. Okay, Coyle's not taking you to the Stanley Cup. These are good NHL players, but they're not top-line players on a good team. They're just not. And the Bruins are going to have to go back to the drawing board with all their cap space this summer. They're going to have decisions to make on their bench. And they're going to make a lot of personnel decisions, and they're going to have the cap space to do it. But I do believe that the Florida Panthers close this out. And I believe that, I'm really hoping to see a Florida Panther New York Ranger conference final, because I think that'll be awesome to watch.
I agree. I mean, I would love to see that happen too. Hopefully the Rangers can figure it out come Thursday night. We're not going to talk about them right now, but that's all I really got for today's show, Colby. I mean, we got 2 games on tonight. So these nights now are limited with 2 hockey games. It's getting close to just being 1 game a night. So enjoy these back-to-back games while we still have them, because once one of these series are closed out, it's going to be 1 game a night starting here soon. So I'm excited for tonight. Vancouver, Edmonton, I think that game will be closer and tighter. I'm more excited for that one than Boston, Florida, to be honest, even though I think Boston, Florida will have more physicality. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Any final thoughts for you?
No.
All right. Big thank you to the chat. Big thank you to Frank Seravalli. Always a big thank you to our producer, Vic. I hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Enjoy.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content